it's not even really that gory.
It's not. It really isn't.
It's held in this classification of just gore and torture, and there is gore and torture, but I think it fits the movie.
Hello, and welcome to a Loyalty Cup review. Sean laughs every time I do that. So what we're doing is we're going to jump into a 4-part series.
New French Extremism, New French Extremity is a subgenre of horror, and you guessed it, coming out of French, focusing on just extreme gore and violence with a touch of sexualism, a nice shellac of art house vibe to it. Artsy gore.
Alright, so Martyrs is 2 girls who look to exact revenge for violence they endured in their past as children. Things go terribly wrong in that plan. This movie is ultra violent. It actually touches on the very idea of what it means to display violence and what it is for us to be voyeurs of that violence. And it's got some religious and spiritual commentary kind of sprinkled. I wouldn't say throughout, but it's in there. Sean, what's your history with this movie? Tell me, does it work for you? Do you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I first heard about this movie years ago, pretty much when it came out, just because of the buzz of it being a very extreme movie, really pushing the limits of violence and gore. And I was really into that at the time. I couldn't get my hands on a copy of the DVD. It was really hard to find. Finally scooped it up, and I love the movie. I think it's great. It's not as intense as I was kind of expecting it to be. I just really expected them to pile it on more than they did. I was actually surprised at how much story there actually was. It is super violent, full of gore, but it also has some cool ideas, and I think it just tells a cool story. 2 stories, really. You get 2 movies in one.
It's really what it's like. I liked the first movie a lot, and I think it actually accomplishes the goal that a lot of people give this movie credit for in the first half of the movie. Reaching to what it needs to maybe tap into this French new extremism. The way that it shows the violence, it's brutal. It's not an action sequence. It's not like, well, it is, and it's not like, it's visceral and you feel crappy about seeing it, and
it's a bummer.
Doesn't,
You really see, you believe that these people, and I mean, spoilers? When she hits them with that shotgun, you believe that they've been hit with the shotgun.
And something about the way that everyone else experiences it too in the scene, it's just like the shock of like, it feels like you are sitting around the table also and are like, what the
Yeah, when you're sitting there watching this family that you don't know anything about, just go on with their morning.
Other than that, they seem like a legitimate family, and they're happy.
And they're speaking about things that are never going to happen and that ultimately do not matter at all. And they're sitting there, and within 30 seconds, they're going to all be dead. You're going to feel it.
And the way that the bodies are shown, the way that the bodies are treated, the way that she's haunted. One of the characters, Lucy's haunted by like this bout of psychosis that has her believe that this sort of zombie-esque character is attacking her and cutting her. And those scenes, you see them play out as if they were real, and those are equally as brutal. It's one of those where you see her go to cut her, and you just get to see it. Like, it doesn't cut away. It's a long take of just blades running down skin. The violence, the way it's depicted, it is brutal, feels realistic. It doesn't feel good, but it also is new and interesting to me. Something, we talked about this off screen a little bit the other day, actually. Compared to its contemporaries, Hostel is the shining example from like 3 years before. It came out in 2005. This movie came out in 2008. Hostel celebrates this violence in the tone that it takes, while on this one it's very sobering how scary it can be.
Something like Hostel really just kind of focuses on, it's kind of like an effects showcase, how much gross stuff can we show you, whereas this takes the same type of showing you something terrible and real visceral, but using it in a more realistic way, I think.
Sean, let me ask you about the second half of the movie. The Lucy character offs herself. This happens about 45 minutes to 50 minutes in. Then the rest of the movie is something else entirely.
Yeah. So the first time you see that transition, it blows your mind. Yeah. You realize, now we're in we've completely entered a different movie now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally, I like the first half a lot better. Does the movie itself suffer for having such
a pivot.
two distinct films, because it seems like there's almost too much going on, and there's a lot of cool themes. It seems like those aren't fleshed out as well as they should be. And I think that does take away from the movie. It could have been a longer movie. It could have been a more in-depth movie.
So I do think that it suffers, and it's not because of the ideas it's putting forward. It's because of the execution. It does slow down, does pivot, and I don't mind when a movie does that if it makes it worth my while. And I get that it's going for this more sort of transcendental sort of filmmaking where it's like, let's just let the camera sit on the suffering. For a little while, it felt like I'm bored and things are happening because the script said that now this happens.
It does start hitting the check boxes towards the end of the movie, just what the guy needs to get into this film before it's a wrap. And it's something that we discussed alone, intimately.
Yeah.
It does kind of seem like a first draft of a movie, that you have these ideas kind of fleshed out, and then with the intention of coming back later and maybe putting more meat on it.
But the ideas are, to me, the idea of the secret society, the idea of the like the torture cell happening underneath the home, the idea of finding the old captor, all of these I think are really interesting. Yeah, they just didn't give it really the treatment I think it needed.
There's too much interesting stuff that we don't get to find out about.
But what it decides to focus on is this, what feels like a half-hour sequence of them just coming in and beating the crap out of our main character. Again, I think it's one of those movies that wants you to put you through it, but I didn't come away. I didn't really want to see it through the end at that point.
Why?
It's almost like it drives that point home pretty quickly, but I still have to watch her getting beat for another 20 minutes.
And I think that's inherent with the genre. Whereas Hostel will make you stare at someone having parts removed from them or blowtorched or something, and you want to look away, and then you look away and you look back and it's still going on. It's kind of what they do, I think, in this genre of torture movies, is really putting you
through it
there,
yeah.
And it is harsh and it isn't entertaining.
To me it wasn't so much harsh as it's almost like when they Bobby Flay her, I almost would have wanted to see more of that. And because of the interesting, because I'm a terrible
nasty.
Human being, I'm no good.
You see enough women hitting at home and you're like, get me to the flay,
let's see the skin,
take that
off
skin
of the body. It was very interesting to me at that point, like after I got through the torturing stuff and after the secret society stuff, which I think was done so cheesily. People in all black come in, kick down the door, take names. Talk to me about this society. What are they doing? What's their goal?
No, I mean, yeah, it was done pretty cheesy, but I mean, it's not aesthetically my type of movie. You know what I mean? I would have made different choices. Getting into the secret society aspect of it, there's really just, whatever you think. It's kind of subjective.
I mean, their goal is laid out for you pretty clearly in that exposition dump. She just tells you, like, we're looking for martyrs, which is this different class of people that can endure
really
great suffering.
Can really take a punch.
Yeah. Over and over. Who pee in a bucket.
Yeah, no
and
problem.
they poop in the bucket.
Through the shorts. She had the means to take her shorts off, but she just filtered it.
She strained it.
Watch these. The society, is trying to get a glimpse into the afterlife for some reason, just for kicks.
Yeah, that's the confusing part. It's like, well, what are they? It's interesting, but I don't understand why they want to do that. So let's talk about that ending then, because our main character does get to the point where she's proven a martyr and she sees onto the other side. This is after the Bobby flaying. There's a character who gets to see onto the other side, but before she can tell the rest of the society who's all aggregated at this house, she kills herself.
What do you think Anna whispered?
I think the meat of it I can't know, but I can know that she told Mademoiselle something that was either so amazing that she's like, I need to kill myself now to get there, or something so dreadful that it couldn't be shared with the rest of humanity for some reason.
Did she have? Because we don't know much about Mademoiselle.
No.
Right? So we don't know her motivation. She could be a sweetheart. Maybe this, by knowing what happens in the afterlife, it removes not only her will to live in this life, but also if her followers actually did know, maybe they would just end up in mass suicides, you know, and maybe you have to live here on this earth in order to experience something good on the other one and the other life.
See, to me, these ideas are really fun and interesting to talk about, but the movie, it gives you nothing and doesn't really explore them too much.
Yeah.
So all it is would be us waxing.
Yeah, so it's kind of cheap. So it's par for the course in this movie that we don't get the answers.
Right.
And we don't get to see more of that. And I think it's fine. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is fine. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good movie. What do you think?
I think it does take an interesting step for violence in the way that it's depicted in film. I think it's a stepping stone, but the movie itself is it's fractured. It really does lose its footing in that second half. It almost wouldn't be so bad if it were just the ending, but it's the second half of the movie. And for that, I can't say I've really enjoyed this movie that much.
It's cool to see it formatted this way. I don't know that it necessarily works, but I appreciate that they tried it to have these two holes, or two halves to a whole, as opposed to just, beginning, middle, and end. It's not even really that gory.
It's not. It really isn't.
It's held in this classification of just gore and torture, and there is gore and torture, but I think it fits the movie.
It's more about,
if anything,
what it shows you, it's more about how it shows it to you. And I think that's what I appreciate about it.
But I really think they could have gone harder with it. Mm-hmm. But again, that goes with everything else in this movie. They could have really pushed a lot of things further.
What's next? High Tension?
Ooh.
We appreciate you tuning in. Stay tuned. Please subscribe if you like what we're up to, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.